Upper extremity injuries can be daunting on any exam, regardless of whether it's a medical school exam or whether it's a board exam, like the step one exams, right? Um, but there are some patterns that you can learn. For example, humerus fractures, right? Don't think about just the bone. Think about the nerves running next to it. If you know the three locations on the humerus, you can predict three major nerve injuries. So let's make this ridiculously easy for all you fans who have been bombarding my DMs for this video. Here you go. This is especially for you. Enjoy. All right, so we're going to go from proximal, so the top here, to the distal part. Here we have a skeleton, right? And we have the arm, right? We have the humerus, we have the median, the radius, the ulna, and yeah, we're gonna go over all the nerves. So first things first, the surgical neck of the humerus. That is where the axillary nerve gets injured. So if you have a surgical neck fracture, the axillary nerve is going to be involved. And the axillary nerve comes from C5 to C6. Another classic cause of axillary nerve injury is going to be shoulder dislocation, and it has to be anterior shoulder dislocation. So let's write it over here, anterior. Okay, so how do you present itself? How does this present? Now, the axillary nerve is in charge of a couple of things. One of the things it does is innervate the deltoid muscles. And the deltoid muscles, as we know, are in charge of abducting the arms past 15 degrees, right? So obviously, if there's an axillary injury, it's going to affect the deltoid, and you cannot abduct the arm past 15 degrees. You also lose sensation over the lateral shoulder, and that's called the regimental badge area. But honestly, you don't really need to know that. You also get deltoid atrophy, right? Or flattened deltoid, and that's obviously because of the lack of the innervation that's happening over there. So remember, surgical neck fracture equals axillary nerve injury, which equals deltoid innervation loss, which equals no abduction of the arm and loss of sensation in the lateral shoulder. All right, so that is the axillary nerve. Next up, the radial nerve. We're moving down to the midshaft. So we covered the proximal part of the humerus, and now we're going middle, right? We're going to the midshaft of the humerus, and that is where the radial nerve runs. The radial nerve runs from C5 to T1, running through the radial groove. So remember, a midshaft injury. I'm going to give you guys a mnemonic in the end so you can remember this easily, but a midshaft humerus fracture or injury results in the radial nerve getting injured, right? Now, what are these injuries that we're talking about? And those are the things that get thrown into the questions for you guys as clues, right? So the first things first, you have to know about crutches. What are crutches? For our fans where English language is not the first language, is not their first language, crutches are basically these things that we give to people who have broken their legs. So if someone has broken their leg, right, you have a cast over it, and they need these crutches to to be able to walk, right? These are crutches. And these result in compression in the axilla that is called crutch palsy, right? Now, another thing that you need to know is that the radial nerve, right, it innervates the wrist and the finger extensors. So the classic finding is going to be wrist drop. Now, a quick way that I can remember this and an easy memory thing to remember this is by saying wrist, wrist. So radial, radial nerve injury, wrist drop, right? The wrist drops. Why? Because the extensors are going to be lost and you cannot lift your wrist. Instead, what happens is that it drops, right? Because the extensor muscles are going to be completely gone, kaput, right? They're injured. All right, next up we have the median nerve. So we've covered the proximal part of the humerus, we've covered the midshaft, and now we're going down, right? We're going to the supracondylar region of the humerus. Now, supracondylar fracture, supracondylar fractures. Think median nerve. Okay, now more distal injuries include carpal tunnel syndrome and wrist lacerations. For the median and the ulnar nerve, it's important for you guys to be able to visualize how they innervate the hand. So if we're going to draw a hand where this is going to be the thumb, the first finger, the middle finger, the ring finger, and the pinky finger, the innervations occur as such. We divide the hand into the first, second, third, and a half parts, and then the last half and the pinky. And how it works is that everything in this part is going to be innervated by the median nerve, and anything in this part, so the median half of the ring finger and the pinky finger, are going to be the ulnar nerve, right? So this is an important innervation for you guys to know. And based on this, you can understand that the median nerve supplies the lateral 3/2 digits, right? And an injury in the medial nerve results in what's called the ape hand. Now I'm going to throw an image over here. This is going to be the ape hand. And another thing we have is called the hand of benediction. And I'm going to throw an image of hand of benediction as well and over here. So over here at the top, you see the ape hand. This is called, this results in thenar atrophy and loss of thumb opposition. However, hand of benediction is with a proximal median nerve injury, and the patient has difficulty flexing the hand, flexing the index and the middle fingers when making a fist. And this is what's called the hand of benediction. Guys, if MedBites is helping you with medical school or your step 1 prep or any other board exam preparations, consider subscribing. If you'd like to support the channel, even $1 or 2 goes a long way. This is a one-person operation, and everything from the recording equipment to the software to the artwork that's used, it's paid out of pocket. Now, the goal is to keep these videos free and accessible. I am not going to change that. All these videos will forever remain free, but your support would genuinely help me keep making these because, you know, as I said, everything is paid out of pocket and it really is difficult. But yeah, so there's that. All right, back to the nerves. The last part is the ulnar nerve. Ulnar nerve um, runs behind the medial epicondyle, so it's the famous funny bone. And the medial epicondyle would be right here. So medial, so let's run this here. Ulnar nerve is medial epicondyle injury. Now, another classic cause, aside from, you know, a fracture at the medial epicondyle, is going to be compression at the wrist, right? So the wrist right here. And that's particularly seen in cyclists. So a classic question would tell you that a cyclist was a Tour de France, right? And then all of a sudden, his finger, like his fourth and fifth digits don't work anymore, and he's lost sensation in the first half of his digits. So what happened there is that when the cyclist rests their wrist at the handlebars, those handlebars, right? So the handlebars, they compress what's called the Guyon canal. Okay, remember the median nerves run through the carpal tunnel, hence carpal tunnel syndrome affects the median nerve. However, the ulnar nerves run through the Guyon canal. Another extremely high yield question or example is the fracture of the hook of Hammett, right? So the hook of Hammett is like around here, right? And it's one of the bones of the carpals. So remember, guys, don't confuse. This is a point of confusion amongst a lot of students for some reason. These are your carpal bones. However, these are your metacarpal bones. Everything in the wrist is carpal. The palm of your hand, those bones down there are the metacarpals. Don't confuse these. And the classic motor findings for these, well, actually, before we get to the classic motor finding, we gotta say that the example for hook of Hammett, the classic question says that someone, like the patient, right, fell with their hands extended. This is almost always said, or like instead of extended, they would say outstretched hands, right? So there's that. And the classic motor findings are obviously going to be ulnar claw, which means ulnar claw of the fourth and fifth digit, right? Upon extension. So here's an example. As you can see in this image, you have the ulnar claw. um, this patient is trying to extend his fingers, and you can see that the thumb and the first three fingers, right, are extended. However, the ring finger and the pinky finger are staying in place. They cannot be extended. So this is called the ulnar claw. Now let's put it all together. So we said that we covered the humerus, right? We went from the proximal part of the humerus to the distal part of the humerus, and a mnemonic that you can use is arm, right? So going from proximal to distal, you are going down the arm. And that means that for proximal fractures, so surgical necks, it's going to be the axillary nerve, surgical neck. Now a midshaft fracture is going to result in injury of the radial nerve, and the supracondylar is going to result in the median nerve. Okay, so arm, remember them. Now, for the medial epicondyle, it's going to be the ulnar nerve. And that should be everything you can do. If you can recognize these locations and those three classic hand findings, you've got the core of upper extremity nerve injuries down for step one. In the next video, we'll take this one step further and cover the actual brachial plexus lesions, including Erb's palsy, Klumpke palsy, and how to localize the lesions in seconds. If this helped, like, subscribe if you can, and send it to a friend who's studying for the board exams. I'll see you next in MedBites.